Welcome to Indy's Real Estate Gurus. I'm Rick Ripma, your hardworking mortgage guy, and I've been in real estate and mortgages for over 34 years. I've helped over 5,200 folks finance their homes. My team and I believe in custom tailored loans, not the one-size-fits-all approach. We believe there is a right mortgage for you, and we believe we are the team to deliver it. And as we get started, if you have any questions on real estate in Indiana or you have any questions on mortgages, please go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com or 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And today we are honored to have Whitney Walker on with Century 21 Sheetz. And Whitney, you're welcome to the show. We really do appreciate you joining us.
You.
And you're down in Greenwood, is that correct?
Oh, I'm actually in Avon. I'm in Hendricks County.
See, that's how much I know. I don't know why I thought I looked it up and it said you were in Greenwood. I apologize for that. Yeah, and because it's a long way from Greenwood to Avon, or not? I mean, it's a little ways. So, how did you get like before real estate? What did you do? Where'd you grow up? Kind of give us your story.
Side of Indy. So I grew up in Indy. I'm from here. I've lived here my whole life. Before I was in real estate, I was in multifamily residential construction. So I was a project manager, project coordinator in that.
Okay. So as a project manager, I'm guessing that gave you a lot of knowledge about construction. Is that correct?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. And I would guess that's
knowledge about.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, I have a lot of knowledge about construction. It's carried over and it's been really beneficial in working in new construction and also just having general ideas of what contractors would want to do.
Yeah, I would think. I spent 11 years in new home sales with the Estridge Company, so I understand that part. We didn't do multifamily. We just did single family, but it's still, all of it gives you a great understanding of construction. So I would think when you're helping somebody, you can really, on listing a home or selling, helping them buy a home, it just gives you a little upper hand over what a lot of people, the knowledge that other people have. So when you probably see things or understand things that maybe a lot of people don't because you worked in that industry.
Definitely like to think so.
Yeah. Now, where did you grow up? Did you grow up here in Indiana, or are you from some other state?
On the west side of Indy. I went to Bonneville High School. I've always been in the Eagle Creek area. More recently, I have moved out from Marion County and live a little bit more rurally now.
Oh, do you really?
Oh, yeah.
So you're a country girl now?
I am.
Yeah.
No one ever would have imagined.
Yeah. Well, it's funny where life takes us, isn't it?
It sure is.
Yeah, you just never know. So you were in commercial real estate, and what was the driver to get you over into residential real estate and to become a real estate agent?
I love real estate. I mean, I love houses. So when we were in COVID, I've only been an agent for a couple of years. It's been a couple of fantastic years. I've loved it. And during COVID, the construction industry changed. A lot of things about my job changed, and it just wasn't working out for me. And I decided it was finally time to take the leap. It's something I always wanted to do, but kind of a lot of work to get into real estate, and it's pretty expensive. So I had to be in the right position to do it. That time finally came.
Yeah, that's awesome. It is expensive and it is a lot of time, but you've done phenomenally well, which, yes. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons I was very excited about having you on, because I think you have a lot to offer people who are either looking at getting into the business or maybe newer to the business. How did you get going? What did you do? What was the process and the type of things that you did to get your business off to the level that you got it off to, which is phenomenal?
Yeah. My first client was actually just a girl that I met on Facebook. She had made a post on a county chatter page about how she was getting ready to list her home. And I had gotten my license that day.
Wow.
So when I saw her post, I reached out to her. We talked. She ended up coming in my office. We met, and I listed her house for her. And she was so happy. She actually went from someone that was going to list her own house for sale by owner, do it all herself, to referring 4 clients to me. And that that was a great way to get my foot in the door.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, that one thing you did, we haven't talked about a lot of it, but you worked, right? Because you did something a lot of people don't do, and that is you were looking at Facebook. This person said they were going to list a home, and so you went ahead and contacted them. Were you the only agent to contact them that you know of?
I don't believe that I was, but I do think I was the first.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's part of the key is be first, right?
Be first, be honest, and have great communication.
Yeah, awesome. So what else did you do? That's one, and then she referred 4 customers. One of the things that I've learned is that's the thing about every customer. First you need to take care of everybody anyway, but secondly, you never know who's going to be that referral source,
Yes.
right? So you
Yeah.
got to take care of everybody.
You take care of everybody, even if you don't think they're a referral source. You take care of everybody.
Right. I don't even know how you could ever know whether they're a referral
No.
source. So I always go into my assumption is these people are going to refer tons of business to me. I better take care of them,
Yes.
and I don't know about, I'm hyper anyway that way. It's like, I can't, everything has to be done now. I just have that problem. So you did that. What else, what other processes did you do? What else did you do to get going?
Just a lot of marketing, a lot of reaching out to people, cold calls, knocking on doors, you name it, I did it.
Okay. So cold calls and knocking on doors. I think that's phenomenal. It's why I figured you had to, because nobody does the business you do that quickly unless they put the time and effort forward, and also the time and effort in the right direction.
Mhm.
So you did cold calls. Now, was it something that you thought, oh, goody, I get to call a bunch of people I don't know? Or did you have to suck it up and pick up the phone and call them?
You have to suck it up, pick up the phone and call them. If someone ever said that, I can't decide if I want to meet that person or not, actually, because it might be a little crazy. I don't know if anybody really looks forward to cold calls. It's not fun. No one looks forward to
Right.
getting them. We all know that we don't love that. So when you get them, you're not happy. Making them can be a little nerve-wracking.
Yes. But you did it,
Yeah,
right? You did
I
what
sure
you
did.
had to do to get your business going.
Yeah.
And then, so that wasn't enough pain and anguish. You decided to go knock on doors.
Yes.
Okay. So how did you get yourself to do that? Both of these, how did you get yourself to go, okay, this is what I'm going to go do, and then do it?
Well, door knocking was actually pretty easy because it started when I had a client that had made probably 15 offers at this point. It was the height of COVID, and we all know how the market was during this time. It was incredibly competitive. So I had a buyer who happened to be my sister, and she had made 15 offers on a home. And it wasn't working. We weren't finding the house. There's so much competition with every home that we went to that I had to start knocking on doors, trying to find people that wanted to sell their house that weren't on the market yet, so that we stood a chance of getting her a home.
Well, that's phenomenal, but you're downplaying it in my mind a little bit. First off, it was the height of COVID. Okay, so people didn't necessarily even want to talk to anybody,
No.
right, face to face, right? So you decide, okay, I know what area my client wants, so you go start knocking on doors, and you're getting people to open the door and talk with you, and just how did that go when you did that? How
Well,
was
I
that
found
process?
not everybody wanted to talk to you, and that's okay. I completely understand that. We were going through COVID, and I mean,
Right.
not everybody just wants someone showing up on their doorstep asking, "Hey, do you want to sell your home?"
Yeah.
So, and it's completely understandable. My method was I always left my car running and the door open, so no one felt like I was trying to take up too much of their time. I just stopped by. Hey, this is what I'm here for. I've got this letter. Here's this little treat, and please think about this and give me a call if this is something that you're interested in.
Okay, awesome. So I think that's another piece, and I'm sure you did it with your phone calls too, is you had a good plan, and then you knew what you were going to do. I find that a lot of people are scared of the phone because they don't know what to say, and they don't know, they need a reason to call. Some people are just scared, and they just got to suck it up, right? I mean, that's what you and I both have done, that because I do a lot of cold calls too. You
Yeah.
just do it, right?
Yeah, they're never
But
going to see you. If they're not interested, you're probably never going to meet them, and there's nothing to be worried about.
yeah, yeah. In fact, what's the worst thing that ever happened to you when you cold called somebody?
They bust out, and people's been like, maybe that's, I mean, but that's it. Like, you're like, okay, I'm sorry for interrupting your day. I didn't mean to do that. If you ever want to reach out, reach out. If not, no harm, no foul.
Right. Yeah. See, and it's really no. That was kind of my point. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
It's nothing. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't. It just we have to get over it. And I just think it's a big deal for people. And I love it when I get somebody who does that because I do it and I know how valuable it is in somebody's business. And I know, and it doesn't matter if you're brand new or an experienced agent. If you are in a downturn and you need to get your business going, these are the basics that will help you get your business going. Do you
Yeah,
agree with that?
I do. There's
Okay,
a reason
perfect.
they're staples. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great way to say it. There are definitely reasons that they are the staple of the industry. So you cold called, you you went and knocked on doors.
mhm.
Uh, did you do a lot of open houses, or is there anything else that you did that you felt like, wow, that really helped?
Yeah, open houses. I still do open houses as often as possible. Um, I had a really cool opportunity really early on where a friend of mine we've all seen those HGTV shows where somebody's trying to buy a new house. I had a friend of mine who actually was selected to be on one, and I got to be her realtor on a show for A&E. So that was a
Awesome.
fun way to get exposure and a great way to push things out on social media. It was really a fun experience.
Yeah. How'd that go? Was it
It
good?
was fun. Yeah. It was different
That
than I thought it
yeah.
would be.
Yeah. I've talked to I think 3 or 4 agents who have actually been on one of these
Uh-huh.
shows, and every single one says the same thing. It's not what you. One of them, the buyer wasn't even a buyer. They'd pick somebody out that wasn't even buying a house. They just but it's we all know it's a show. So I'm curious. So do you think like those shows are an accurate representation of what a real estate agent does?
Yeah.
No. There's a lot of misconceptions. It's one of those things I'll ask you later on is what are the misconceptions. But
They
I
make it look
also
easy.
yes, they do. Yeah. I think that's a draw for young, not young, new agents as they see
Mhm.
that and they think, oh, I can make a whole lot of money and I can, it's a glamorous and there's a lot of work. You've already told us that you have to cold call, you have to knock on doors. There's things you got to do to make the business work, right?
Yeah, and then once that business works, there's things you have to do that aren't so pleasant either.
Yeah, that's right. So beyond what you did there, what value did you get from being with I guess when you started, what brokerage were you with? Century 21 Sheets, or were you with
I have
somebody else?
been with Century 21 Sheets my whole time, and I don't foresee making a change anytime soon.
Okay. So and I kind of thought that was the case. What do you see as the value of being with a company like that? And then how important is that team and that mentorship to your success when you first get started in real estate?
Oh, it's invaluable. I mean, having an entire team and an entire company behind you with all sorts of different levels of support for a newer agent, especially, I think that that's truly invaluable. Unless you have a connection and you're coming in with somebody that then I mean, having education every month. I have different classes that I can choose to go to. I have full support staff. It's I couldn't imagine going with somebody else.
Yeah, and that's the reason I ask is that's what I found with almost every successful agent that I talked to, and I talked to a lot of gurus like yourself. They got going, and some of them struggled to get going. Some of them got going right away. Most struggled to get going, but the difference maker was when they got on the right team with the right mentors. That's where their business just totally took off, and they also all put the effort forward like you did. That's another critical piece is put that effort forward.
Yes, you have to do work and you have to find the right fit for sure.
Yeah. So if somebody wanted to contact you to buy or sell any real estate, what is the best way to contact you?
Phone would be great. You can call or text anytime. My number is 317-601-9490. That's 317-601-9490.
Yeah, I do the same thing. 317-601-9490. Right, there you go. I have the same problem. They always laugh at me because I mess up our phone numbers all the time.
Call
And if
myself
anybody has any yeah, any questions for Ian or I, go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. Or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And thank you for joining us on Indy's Real Estate Gurus. The gurus we interview share valuable insights. They reveal their strengths, personalities, and how they'll work for you. Well, we hardworking mortgage guys secure your best mortgage. Real estate gurus work hard too. They avoid problems the amateurs don't see. They listen. They find unrealized opportunities. They avoid problems, and they really do make a huge difference in your in what you know your whole experience when you buy or sell a home. If you're buying or selling a home, a real estate guru is a very valuable asset. If you're even thinking of buying or selling a home, keep listening and definitely call one of Indy's real estate gurus. And we're going to switch track just a little bit. I know this is a struggle for many agents. So if you were forced to take a day or a week off and you were not allowed to look at your emails or call anybody on the phone, for real estate, what would we find you doing? Where would you be?
Clawing at whatever box my phone is in, probably.
That's what I would be doing too.
Otherwise, I love traveling. I do try to do as much travel as I can. And I actually built my own home. So that is still a work in progress, and it takes a little bit of my time too.
Wow, yeah. So you built it, but it sounds like it's still under construction.
Yeah, it's livable now. We live in the home, but we built
Okay.
it ourselves, so there's always going to be little projects going on. And right now, we're working on the exterior.
Okay. Well, that's a little easier than working on the interior when you're living there, which is a
Yeah,
big pain in the neck, right?
yeah.
So where do you like to travel? Where's your favorite place to travel?
The Pacific Northwest.
Okay. Somewhere specific or just that
Probably
whole area?
Washington. The whole area is beautiful, but Washington would probably be my favorite state.
Okay. And what do you do when you're there?
I adventure. It's really about getting
Okay.
outside and getting into nature.
Yeah, I think it's amazing when you get into nature how much it relaxes you, how much it rejuvenates you. So it's one of those things. My wife and I during COVID, we would go and we just go to state parks every weekend. And it made all the difference in the world. It really helped get through COVID where, I came into the office, but I was about the only person that, it just made, I didn't have the opportunity to go knock on doors and talk to people. I sat in the office. So I think that's it's interesting to hear where people go. And it's such a great area. It's actually an area I haven't been to, but I have family out there and I see pictures. It's a beautiful place, it looks like. So what would you say your superpower or superpowers are?
I mean, it's a simple one, and you should expect it from any agent that you work with. Communication. Just constant communication. There's not too much communication, honestly. You have to be able to talk to people and truly listen to what they're saying and understand it and feel comfortable asking questions and saying, hey, I didn't quite understand what you meant by this. Clarify for me. Just be open, completely open.
Yeah, and every survey I see, it's one of the biggest negatives most clients have about the agent they work with is the lack of communication. At least I know it is in mortgages. I know it is in mortgages. Is why I set my team up the way I did so I could communicate. But I've also seen it for real estate agents. So I agree with you. It should be something everybody does, but it's not.
It's not. Even
I bet
I
you
see
even
it
find,
working with other agents
yeah,
on other ends of transactions. You can tell that it's not something that everybody does, but it is something that you should look for. And if you're interviewing agents, you definitely need to find someone that you are comfortable communicating with and that will communicate with you in the way that works for you.
Right. So you understand them. You have to understand what's going on. And there is a complicated process, and there's a tremendous amount of emotion when somebody's buying or selling a home.
Yes.
So communication's king.
Yes, and those emotions they can kill everything. So if you don't know how to talk to someone and you don't know how to handle their emotions and how to speak to them in the way that works for them, then everything can fall apart just due to their emotions.
Right. Yeah. Because what I've seen, you get an inspection response back, and the inspection has some things that are maybe, and yours in my mind, they're kind of minor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But in the homeowner's mind, it's their home, and they love this home.
Yep.
And they take it personally, and it matters to have somebody like yourself, a great communicator who can walk you through it and get you to understand, get rid of your emotion.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get past your emotion, right?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Honestly, it's usually just as simple as explaining to them that, hey, this is your house. It's not you. This isn't an insult. It's not a personal insult. This is just a true, like, maintenance issue that needs to be tended to. It doesn't mean that you messed up or anything like that. It happens to everybody. Because the truth,
Right.
I mean, that's
And
the way most of it often is.
Yeah, when you live in a house, you kind of get callous to how your house is, right? You see it every day. I think it's kind of like somebody who loses weight. You lose weight, and the people who see you every day never notice.
Yeah.
Somebody you run into after 4 months notices. It's kind of the same thing.
You get used to dealing with certain little things like, oh, I know that this faucet doesn't work. I'm going to go to this one, things like that. And you just rule them out and you don't think of them as major issues until somebody comes along and is like, hey, that's not going to work for me.
Right. Yeah. I know in new home sales, and I don't know if you noticed this, but in new home sales, I always noticed it because you would have this brand new home completely done and really beautiful. Mm-hmm. And they'd walk through with the builder, what we call the builder, mm-hmm. The guy running the project, and you'd walk back through after they got done, and you'd see all these dots everywhere, and it's like, this house is beautiful. How do they find this stuff?
Yes.
But that's important to somebody, right? It's important to have the house looking as good as you can before you show it.
Absolutely. You want to get it as good as you can before you show it, and then people are buying new construction or paying a little bit more for that new construction, and they want to get their money's worth and have a perfect product.
Yes.
Close to perfect.
Yeah, I always found it as close as, nothing's perfect, right?
Yes.
So what is something you're incredibly proud of in your business?
I actually just finished or am in the midst of a transaction that is probably one that I am the most proud of right now. I have been working with a family who have been working with a lender, and I had spoken to this lender multiple times too. And just to verify that their pre-approval was a true pre-approval and not a pre-qualification, I asked so many times. And they asked too. Well, we were getting ready to put an offer in, and they reached back out to their lender. Lo and behold, that pre-approval was a pre-qualification, and they weren't qualified to buy a loan or buy a home, actually. The loan wasn't going to finish. So they took themselves off the housing market and went to rent, and they're having the worst time renting, finding something that would work for them. I reached out to an investor of mine, got that investor to purchase the house that it was that they fell in love with and rent it to them.
Awesome.
And
that's fantastic.
Yeah. I think that's probably my most proud.
Yeah, I could see why. And it also says a lot about your problem solving abilities, because that's pretty innovative to figure that out.
Thank you.
So that's awesome. So everybody understands there is a big difference. Just because something says it's a pre-approval doesn't mean it's a pre-approval.
No, it's not.
A pre-approval, not underwritten, no documents, no verifications, is a pre-qual. Mm-hmm. Right?
Correct. And a pre-qualification isn't always going to get you a house.
Correct. Even a pre-approval isn't necessarily, but puts you way down the line. And I think sometimes people get irritated with me because it takes a little longer to do everything you're supposed to do to give a solid pre-approval,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And when I pre-approve, it's been underwritten. Okay. I take that extra time to make sure that there's very little that can happen, because I think the worst thing in the world that can possibly happen is you don't close on the home because your pre-approval wasn't any good. I don't have a problem if they lose their job in the middle of it. There's something that changes that you can't foresee, but other than that, it should not happen. It just shouldn't happen if you've done everything. But there's always little things that can come up, and to that point, I know there's a lot of real estate agents who listen. When you want a solid pre-approval, you should do that before Saturday at 1:30, and you're going to look at the home at 2:00.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't do, it's very difficult. There's so much to do to make sure it's accurate, and everybody wants them to be good, that you got to give us time to do that. I don't care who the lender is. They need time. If they want to run it through, we run it through underwriting. We try to get documents. We want all the documents that we can get. It does help that I have a lot of experience. So a lot of times, I know whether it's probably going to go, but I still need the documentation. I still need all that. So it's vital that we get it ahead of time. And I think that's part of your communication. You communicate, you get it, you don't drop it at the last minute. And because there's no way somebody can give you a solid pre-approval if you give them half an hour on a Saturday to get an application and get a pre-approval.
They can give you a letter.
They give you a letter. They get you what you want, but
For now.
it's not a pre-approval for now. And it's not fair to anybody. It's not fair to the seller. It's not fair to the selling agent. It's not fair to the buyer's agent. It's not fair to anybody to do that. The seller especially, they pull their house off the market. They think they may have 5, 10, 12 offers. They pick yours because yours is supposed to be good. So it makes a difference. I'll get off my high horse. One last question though. I'll bet you though, when you have a house listed and you get an offer, you look at who the lender is.
I look at who the lender is and I call them.
Yes. Okay. So that's a big, I was thinking you probably did because you communicate as a lender. And I've been told sometimes, because I've been in the business so long, a lot of people know who I am. They don't call me, but I am amazed at how few people actually call me to verify. I had one last week that did call me, just verify, is this legitimate? And that person happened to know me.
Yeah.
I'd actually done their loan, but so you do that, and you do that. Why do you do that? I think it's important.
Do that to make sure that it is a credible pre-approval and that the lender knows what they're talking about. If it's not a lender that I'm familiar with, and I want to make sure that they have truly put that through underwriting and know that pre-approval means something.
Yeah. And you do that to protect your seller, right? Because everything you do, everything I've known, I can hear from you, everything you do is all about taking care of your seller or your buyer. That's what matters. It's not protecting yourself. You're protecting them because you're a professional. You know what you're supposed to do. And it is amazing how few agents actually do that. I'm surprised. I tried for a while to get the buyer's agent to let me know who, if they're going to make an offer, tell me who it is. I'll call them to make it so when they get the offer, they already go, okay, I know this is a good one because I've already talked to the lender. But most people wouldn't give it to me, so I gave up. But I thought that would be helpful. But anyway, so I do think that's one of those things that's incredibly important. So, in your opinion, what do you think is important when somebody's looking for an agent, either to buy or sell a home? What characteristics do you think are important that they should look for? Maybe a question or two that they should ask that agent.
You should ask that agent about what their plan looks like. You don't want to just hear fancy words. You need to know how they're going to market your home, how they are going to assist you. What are their practices? It's not just, hey, what are your numbers or anything like that? How did you get there? What are you going to do if this happens? Like if there's a scenario that you're worried about, ask them about that scenario. Worst case scenario, this happens. How would you handle it? And then you also have to
Yeah.
make sure that their communication style works for you. Say you're working all day and only want to communicate by text messages. Do you have an agent who only wants to talk to you on the phone? You guys are going to miss each other a lot.
Yeah. How have you set your business up to accommodate those two items?
I always ask people what communication works best for them. If they're okay with text messages, if phone calls work best or anything like that, you just flat out ask them so that way you get that one out of the way. But then I do always put forth my business plan so that you know, like, I would like to list your home and this is what I'm going to do. This is the timeline that we're looking at. And I just put that all out there in the beginning.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because a lot of people, I think, want to list that when they're going to list the home, obviously one of the big things is it goes on BLC or MLS, whatever somebody wants to call it. But that's just, that's kind of just the minimum, right? That's nothing. Everybody's going to do that. What is it beyond that they're going to do? And that's that plan. And they better have a good, solid plan. And then should they should they have a good idea of your neighborhood and your area so that, they're experts in
Yeah,
that? Is that important?
absolutely. You want to see, have you worked in this area before? Are you familiar with it? What are your comps? Let me see if I agree with them. All of the questions. It's one of the biggest transactions of your life. So there aren't too many questions and there aren't wrong questions. There are only good questions and better questions.
Yeah. Yeah. The worst questions is the ones you don't
Yeah.
ask because you need
Yeah.
to know, right? So if somebody is interested in listing a home with you, maybe buying a home, they want to talk with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Call or text at 317-601-9490. That's 317-601-9490. You can also email me at wwalker@c21sheetz.com.
And it's Whitney Walker
Whitney Walker.
with Century 21
Yep.
Sheetz, correct? And to get a hold of Ian or I, go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. Or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And I really, this question is our question of the week. And Ian and I, we ask everybody this question. So it's important. And there's a lot of people who they'll listen to the show just to hear your answer on this one. So it's a big question. Are you ready?
So
What was your first car?
it's my first car. It was a
First car. Yep.
Toyota Corolla.
Okay. Do you remember what year?
I want to say it was a 91. It wasn't
Okay.
very cute, and
So
I
you're
scraped all the rest of the letters off, so it was a Toyota Coro. For some reason, I thought that was fun.
So how long did you have that car?
Maybe a year.
Okay. Okay. So as you can't tell from behind me, I'm a car guy. That's why I love cars, and we like to ask these questions. So maybe get a little more. Is there a car that you've had that you really loved, or maybe you have now? It's
My favorite car that I ever
anything?
had lasted 6 weeks, and it was a Jeep Wrangler.
Okay. What happened to it?
Somebody ran a red light and T-boned me in an intersection. It was a great day
Oh
because I
no.
was just leaving a wedding early because I had split my pants completely open. I got T-boned in an intersection.
Yeah, that must. That's embarrassing. Not only at the wedding, now you got to get out of your car.
My mom pulls up afterwards and she's like, oh my God, what happened? She thought that I had been so nervous that I'd had an accident. That's why I was holding something over my butt. Stupid.
That's
Yeah.
funny. So I'll get off the cars, even though I could talk about cars all day. So what would you say? And I know you just talked about this recent transaction, but what would you say is your most memorable transaction that you've had, other than the one you just had?
Some really good memorable ones, actually. I also recently just finished one that was in contract for 7 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Why for 7 months?
We had an issue where we'd been in contract for a pretty normal amount of time. We were getting ready to close 3 days before closing. The buyers refinanced their car to pay for the
Oh
closing
no.
costs. I had the seller, so I was listing the home. But these buyers, they were in a really bad position, and Mama had spoken to the seller's heart, and she really wanted to make it work with them. So we decided instead of letting it all fall apart, I put them in a lease. They ended up leasing the house for 6 months. My seller earned an extra $7,000 almost with that. They also took on $8,000 worth of repairs for the home. And in the time that they were living in it, leasing it, and then we were able to successfully close. 7 months later, my seller made
Awesome.
quite a bit more money than she anticipated. They had some place to live for 6 months, and everybody was really happy.
Okay, so now I know another one of your superpowers, and that's solving problems, because that's two major problems that you have been able to figure out and solve. What's your process for figuring out how to solve these major roadblocks and
Um,
problems?
Honestly, just thinking about how if I was in this situation, how would I want this resolved for me? Figure that out, and then figure out how to get there.
Perfect. Yeah. So you just you're open minded to take, because these are unusual steps that you take to figure out the solution.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's just I think that's a major superpower of yours, because I think a lot of people have trouble getting outside of that
Mhm.
box, you know. And then the more type of problems that like that you solve, the more other problems are they're easier to solve. So you're phenomenal at that. That is, I think, just crazy. So how would you describe your brand?
My brand, a hard question for me. Uh, for me, as my brand, I just try to present myself as my brand and to be open, honest, forthcoming, but really quality.
Yeah, and you're a problem
Yeah,
solver. Don't
definitely.
forget that. you also have it's one of those traits that I've noticed in most of the gurus, and that is you have a calming demeanor. And you kind of talked about that, and when you talked about how because there's issues that come up through the process, there's all these emotions, and you're able to walk people through that, and that calming demeanor can change everything for
Yeah.
somebody, as opposed to if you jump in at their level of excitement or their level of
Oh yeah,
emotion.
if you get
Is
sucked
that
into the
accurate?
emotions that your client's having, and instead of trying to help them manage their emotions, then you're doomed.
Yeah. So your team now is basically
Mhm.
you. It sounds like, maybe.
Yeah, I have sales
Okay.
support
And are
through
you
my company, but my
okay?
team is me.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you looking to at some point start a team, or you like just being yourself on your own?
Right now, I do really like being myself. If the right agent, if I had the right connection with an agent and I felt that calling, I would definitely be open to a team though.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. I prefer to work by myself, and so a lot of people, when you say that, they're like, well, they don't want to grow. Well, I've always liked to work by myself. I think there's people who want to have a big team and they want to do all that and they want to maybe go that direction. But for me, even when I was young, I never really wanted to grow a big team. I like working by myself. So I think there's just you have to figure out what works for you, and it can change over time. Correct? Yeah, it can change.
I don't even think that not wanting a team is not wanting to grow. I love my personal relationships with my clients, and I don't want to pass those off on to anybody else.
Yeah, that's I think we love what we do, so it's hard. It's not something you want
It
to
is
give
hard for
up.
me
So
to give
I completely
anybody a part of what I'm doing or
yeah.
relinquish control of those things.
Now it sounds like you're on social media a lot. What would you say the power of social media is for real estate?
It's really important. I wouldn't rely solely on social media myself. I do think it's really important. That's how you connect with people. I mean, you have so many people in your life that probably don't know you do real estate. So you can only communicate to the people in your lives through that way if you don't see them every day. And, run
Yeah.
ads, share things, community chatters. You connect with people through real estate, through social media, but it's not the only thing at all.
It's one of those things. I've talked to so many agents, and there's some agents that do phenomenally well. They have no social media.
Mm-hmm.
Others who almost exclusively do social media, and they do extremely well. And then people who have a well-rounded different things. They do a lot of different things, and they do very well too. But it does seem, not that you can't do it without social media, but social media is a part of our times. And if you do it correctly, it can make a difference.
Sure.
I mean, from what you said, it was how you got going, really.
The community chatters and connecting with your community through it. I'm not great at the TikTok videos or anything like that. So it's just not for me, my sole source of advertising or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I talked to we had her on, and she actually is a real estate agent, but she also has her own social media company. And I thought it was very interesting. She said a couple things. She said, number one, you should have all of those social medias, you should have your name. So whatever it is that you use. So what do you use for Facebook?
For Facebook, I have a professional page that is Whitney Walker Realtor. I feel like I do most of my interactions with people as myself as Whitney Walker.
Okay. So what she says is you should then go get all these other sites in that name, because you don't want somebody else getting your name and they think it's you. So that was her first thing. And then she said, once you do that, only use the ones that your customers use. It doesn't matter that you have the others. You just don't want somebody else to be using them, and maybe someday you'll need them. But right now, if you don't need them, she agrees 100% with you. And she was the most knowledgeable person I've heard on social media. Yeah, it makes total sense. You just want to do what's going to work, and you want to go where your customers are. So what would you say one of the biggest lessons that you've learned in your business?
Everything, if you try, things will work out. Don't let everything overwhelm you. Sit back, take your time, figure things out, and that's when you're going to do your best work. If you get hectic, you get overwhelmed, it's not going to work out for you probably that well. At least it won't work out for me.
Yeah, I agree 100%. One of the things I've learned, I say I've learned it. I will say that I'm not really very good at actually doing this, but I know it is. And that is, everything ends up working out. Worrying about something at 2:00 in the morning never solves it. And normally by 9:00, it's nowhere near as big a problem as what you thought it was at 2:00 in the morning. So you just got to let it happen, right? Let it work out. That's what I found. I try desperately to do that, but I'm not very good at it.
I actually have found that working with clients, it helps to tell them that, hey, if you're having one of those 2 a.m. freakouts, go ahead and text it all to me. I'm probably not going to respond because I'm going to be asleep. You get it all out, I'll wake up and address it. So you don't hesitate to reach out to me in the middle of the night if you feel like that's what you need to do, and that's when everything's coming up.
Well, that's great advice, and it's so important to get that information out when you're thinking of it. Isn't any information? I'm one who, if you text me, I feel I have to get back with you immediately, so I try immediately. But at 2:00 in the morning, I'm not going to get back with anybody. But I understand there are times sometimes you wake up and you just happen to see it. But for the most part, if 2:00 in the morning, if I text somebody, I don't expect anything back. I just needed to get it down, or I might not remember in the morning, right? So if somebody had wanted to look at buying a home, selling a home, what is the best way to contact you and talk with you to work with you?
You can give me a call at 317-601-9490. That's 317-601-9490. Or you can email me at wwalker@c21sheetz.com.
And you can get a hold of Ian or I wish I could say that, Ian or I at hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com, or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And Whitney, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. You're a phenomenal agent. Thanks so much. Yeah, you're welcome. And if you have any friends, family, or coworkers looking to buy, sell, or refinance, please contact us and have a fantastic day.
Branch NMLS number 33041. Rick Ripma's NMLS number 6645889. Ian Arnold's NMLS number is 1995469. Equal housing opportunity. Some restrictions apply.